All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Back on Stage Live. I'm your host, Ruben Avery, and in this live cast, we discuss all things music in the context of your career as a working musician. So, this is intended to be an open forum where we bring together musicians and band leaders to share their experiences and expertise so that we can all benefit from each other's collective knowledge and do a better job of growing our music careers better and faster, because let's be honest, none of us got into an entertainment career because we wanted to sit in front of our computers all day sending emails. So we're entertainers because we love entertaining. So let's build each other up, be a part of this revolution of new gig workers, taking our industry out of the dark ages and moving ourselves towards a brighter future where we can all hopefully perform way more, make a lot more money, and do way less boring admin work. So if you're already a member of the Back on Stage community because you use our software to manage your music project, welcome back. And if you're not using Back on Stage yet, welcome to you as well. I encourage you to head over to backonstageapp.com and check us out and start your 30-day free trial. We'd love to see you growing your music business with our tools. And I will say that most bands that come our way shave 3+ hours of admin work off of every single booking. So that increases their gig capacity and revenue tremendously, also saving them thousands of dollars a year on software costs. So definitely worth checking that out. Yeah, like I said, this show is intended to be an open dialogue. So if you're joining us for the first time, please click on the join button underneath my face next to the fan spotlight there, and that will allow you to join the chat, post messages there, and ask your questions, as well as join me on stage here. If you actually have a question and you want to talk to me face to face here, this is a really great platform for that. So this is kind of meant to be sort of an office hours type of vibe. I'm here to help you with your questions around Back on Stage. If you have anything you need help with inside the software currently, or if you're thinking about using Back on Stage in your project and would like to ask some questions, this is a great place to do that. I should also mention today's session is being recorded, so if you miss any part of it and would like to check it out after the fact, head over to backonstageapp.com, click on the little live button in the top of our website there, and you can access this recording and all of our past recordings there as well. Last week, we had a fantastic guest join us, Michael Vangarov from the Liquid Blue Band out of San Diego. He shared with us some really valuable knowledge and insight on sound systems and PAs and hiring people to run them and all that kind of stuff. So that will be up in our blog shortly, or on the Back on Stage Live button on our website. So I highly encourage you to go check that out. The video recording is up on our YouTube channel already, so you're welcome to check that out there. Lots of great information in there. We had a lot of people asking for information and tips on how to do PA for wedding gigs, for gigs in general, different size rooms, different size bands, all that stuff. So we talked about all that stuff for a good hour. Plenty of great knowledge in there, so go check that out. So today's topic, we wanted to discuss a little bit about our calendar system within Back on Stage. We've sort of decided not to do a blackout calendar or a blackout availability blackout system, which was something that people have been requesting for a while. And the more we toyed with the idea, the more we realized it probably just wasn't something that was actually going to add a ton of value to people's lives. So we decided not to do it, and I wanted to share with you guys today a little bit about why we made that decision. We published a blog post on this a few weeks ago, but I thought it was worth kind of doing a deeper dive into it today and having a chat about it here with you guys live, so that you can ask questions and we can sort of, I don't know, maybe debate this a little bit or something. And then from there, I'll just kind of launch with that, and then we'll get into whatever questions you guys have today. I'm happy to discuss any of that stuff. I think a few of you are here from various places and have some questions about things that are up and coming. I do have some demos I'm able to do in our new version of Back on Stage. So if you're here to check that out, we can jump into that a little bit as well. So really just kind of happy to have a free-form session today and have some fun with you guys. So once again, hit that join button beside the fan spotlight. It's going to ask you to create an account. You'll need an account to be able to either join our fan spotlight or post in the chat there. But it's just a name and email. Highly recommend you check out this Ursa Live system as well, because it is pretty cool for easily live streaming, and can help you guys out as bands if you're looking to live stream to your fans around the world. It's a really easy platform to do that with, and you can get tips and all sorts of stuff. As you can see in the top corner there, there's chat, there's questions, there's tips, a little artist bio up there. So cool platform, relatively new, but we're using it for our live casts because it is very easy to use, and just makes this whole process fun. So happy to have you joining us here. All right, so I'm going to do a little screen share here, and I'm actually just going to walk you guys through this blog that we posted a little while ago to sort of have some structure to what I'm talking about here. But yeah, so the availability blackout calendar, like I said, was something that a lot of people had been requesting and talking about. And it seemed to be one of those things that a lot of people thought they wanted. And we really did toy with this idea for a long time. We sat on it for a couple of years. And by the time we got around to actually developing it or starting to develop it, we had some mock-ups, we had some thoughts, and we just kind of kept going around in circles, because every time we'd get through one of these ideas, then it would be like, okay, well, we thought about that, but then at the end of the day, we still just have to ask the person if they're available or not. So did that really provide any value? So I'll start off here with just sort of the challenge of the design of it. So when you talk about when you're thinking about a calendar, the design is pretty straightforward. You've got a calendar kind of layout, but then it comes down to, okay, who's updating this calendar? Is it going to be the musician themselves? Is it going to be an administrator? And when you're having different people update the same calendar, obviously there's issues just inherent in that. But ultimately, it came down to whose actual responsibility is it going to be to update this calendar. If a musician comes and updates their availability so that the band leader or agent or whoever can see it, that's all great. But then if that availability changes, is it on that musician to go back and change that? Or should they be able to just message their leader and say, hey, go change this for me? Or is it going to be something that only the leaders have access to? And then musicians just have to tell the leader, and then they go on and update it. And also, how frequently are we going to be updating it? So all this stuff sort of came into play, and I'll speak a little more anecdotally about my own experiences with systems like that do exist right now in a little bit. But that was sort of the first challenge. The second one was the subjective nature of availability. So just to sort of explain this, obviously, like, availability isn't something we generally think about as subjective all the time, but it really is. If I were to ask you, hey, are you available for a gig next July 15th, let's say, your first question should be, well, what's the gig, right? You're probably not just going to say yes or no. You need to know, what's the pay, where is it, how long is it going to take me to get there, how much do I need to prepare for this gig, all of that sort of stuff. So it's very subjective whether or not you're available. And the thing about having a blackout calendar system was that it's very rigid. Once you put it into the system, it's like, I'm either available on this date or I'm not. And as a band leader, I might see that, okay, my vocalist put on her blackout calendar that she's unavailable on July 15th, but we just got this incredible opportunity to go to Spain, and it's going to pay $2,000 a guy, and it's a fantastic opportunity. Whatever she's got going on that date, probably she can cancel it and do this instead, because it's pretty awesome. So I'm still going to reach out and ask her anyway. So in that case, it's like, what value did that really provide to have that there in the system for me to just look at and go around anyway? Then, of course, you get into the granularity of it as well. Subjectivity isn't just on a date-by-date thing, but if you were to black out July 15th, maybe that's because you've got a church gig in the morning from 9 to noon or something, but in the afternoon, technically you're available, and you could probably still handle any kind of a gig if I were to ask you to come out to a wedding gig or a corporate gig or something. So then there's that challenge of granularity added into it, is how granular do we go with this? Do you just select the days you're blacking out, or do you select the times on those days? And then this becomes a really big make work project for everyone involved, because obviously maintaining things on an hourly basis is a lot more complicated than maintaining them just on a daily basis. But if you're not doing that, then you risk just not sending gig offers to people when you otherwise they might actually be available. So obviously that sort of questions the usefulness of that data. As I mentioned, there's question of who's getting to update that data, but that also comes down to like how frequently are you doing this, because availability is changing daily, sometimes hourly. So if I'm asking all of my musicians to go plug in their Blackout dates for the next 2 or 3 months, that's actually a really big make work project for all those musicians. They're individually having to log into a system, reference whatever calendars they're using, and click through all the dates to say a yes or no or whatever. And then literally tomorrow that could all change. Maybe, they decide to plan a trip, or they get booked for a few more gigs, or they sign up for a course. Like, how often are we expecting them to log in and re-update all of this information for us? It's just a little impractical. And like I say, it's outdated so fast that we really question the usefulness of that information. Now, to that question, some people were saying, well, what if we just sync everybody's calendars in there so they're all up to date all the time? Now, in a perfect world, that might work. If we all used Google Calendar religiously and every little hour of every day was put in there and we stuck to it like glue, fantastic. But the reality is life is messy. A lot of people still aren't using digital calendars. And even if you are, maybe you've got several going on. And quite often, you get maybe there's a family event in a couple of weeks and you haven't bothered to put it into your calendar yet. So even when if we did manage to sync all of those calendars in, it would still be really difficult to actually be able to fully rely 100% on that information. So also kind of wanted to share some past experiences working with these systems myself. So my band was working with an agency several years ago who had one of these sort of availability blackout systems, and they were requiring us to log in. They'd send us an email and say, hey, please go put in your availability on this date. We'd like to see when you guys are available. We're filling up these dates for next month. So I would go in there and do that, and that would take me 15, 20, maybe 30 minutes to go in there and plug in all my availability or my band's availability for the next month. That said, I wasn't really plugging in my band's availability because I didn't know it. I would just say, okay, well, we don't have a booking on this Saturday and that Sunday, so we're probably available, but I haven't actually checked with all my band members because that's totally impractical. I'm not going to go out and ask 9 people for all of their availability throughout the next month's 31 days and then pool all that together and try to get something for an agent. So I would just base that on when we didn't have bookings, which wasn't 100% accurate to begin with. Then the agent wouldn't even book us. That month would go by and I'd be like, okay, well, I guess they didn't need us that month. And then they'd email me again and be like, can you please put in your availability for the next month? Okay, I don't know, log in there. I'd plug it all in again. Maybe they'd book us. Maybe they wouldn't. 5 or 6 months like this went by. And I was like, okay, you guys have booked us like 2 or 3 times in the last 5 or 6 months. You're making all this work for me every month. And I'm not getting a lot out of it. So it's a make work project for me. I could probably get more gigs if I just spent that time boosting up my Google ads or, making some relationships with some wedding planners or something rather than just filling in your boring calendar, which isn't even accurate. So that was sort of my experience with using those blackout systems. So as somebody who was using it, it was kind of a painful experience because, like I said, I didn't really get anything out of it. And it was just a big make work project for me. So if you're a band leader considering something like this and trying to make all your musicians do sort of a blackout calendar for you, consider that you are kind of making a lot of work for them in the process. And if you're not getting them a lot of work out of it at the end of the day, it's probably going to be something that just ends up frustrating them and makes working for you kind of a pain in their butt. So things to think about. So massive make work project for everybody. Okay, so what are we going to do instead? if we're not really going to build a blackout calendar, and if that's not really the thing that we think is the best based on all of that information, what can we do instead? Because as band leaders, we still need availability information. We want to know when our musicians are available and when they're not, and be able to move quickly on gigs. If we're having to quote out an agent or bid on jobs, we need to know that we have at least enough of a team that we can put together a gig. So with Back on Stage, what we've decided to do is build a bunch of these tools into the actual gig creation process so that you can get some visibility quickly into what musicians you might have available and give yourself somewhat of an idea of who you've got ready to go so that you can bid on that job relatively confidently without having to go that extra mile of making your musicians do all that work for you. And still not really being able to rely on that information at the end of the day anyway. So what we've done here is, this is a screenshot from our up and coming interface. So this hasn't been released yet, but we expect to be beta testing this in the next few weeks. So firstly, we're assembling kind of a gig conflict notice. So what you'll see in here is if so this is sort of a sample roster. If I was going to be booking a drummer on this gig, here are all my available drummers I have. And right now, this little icon right here, when I hover over it, will tell me that this member is booked for one or more gigs that conflict with this booking date. So in Back on Stage, musicians can work for your band. They can be part of other bands. So this information is pulling in their availability data from all of the gigs they have in the system. And it's telling me that all of these guys have date conflicts. So what this means is that Back on Stage only looks at the actual calendar date. So if this booking was for July 15th, what this is telling me is each one of these guys has another booking on July 15th, but I don't know what time that booking is. And we're probably not going to get that granular with this feature because it's just too difficult to know. All of these bookings have so many different times. There's a tech load in, there's a band load in, there's a sound check, there's the time you're actually performing, and all these things in between. So the system can't ever really know exactly when a person has to be on site for any specific booking. So for example, Eric over here might be booked for a church gig on this date. Like I said earlier, maybe it's a 9 to noon gig. So if he's working 9 to noon on July 15th, and this gig technically starts at 3, the one that I'm trying to book him for, technically that's a date conflict. We've got 2 bookings on the same date, but odds are highly likely that he could actually still make that booking because maybe he can get from the church to this wedding in 3 hours. So it gives me a little bit of information as a band leader that my guys are busy on this date. They've got other things. It doesn't necessarily mean they're going to say no or that they can't do this gig. But if I was trying to book a 9-piece band for a client who called me in a panic saying, oh no, I need a band next Friday. What have you got? I can open up this book roles page and look at my entire roster. And if I were to see that all 10 of my members or all 10 of my roles and everybody I had as options in each of those roles all had conflicts, I might tell that person, it's going to be really hard for me to put a band together. Everybody's got conflicts. I don't know exactly what they're doing. Maybe they can do it. But the fact that everybody's conflicting on that date, I know right away walking into that's going to be a real problem for me, and I might not actually be able to do it. So we're not, it's not an availability blackout calendar. These people haven't told me they're unavailable, but again, it does give me quite a bit of insight to be able to confidently make some decisions. So this doesn't require musicians to log in all the time and be updating all of their information. It's just done in the background as they're accepting or declining gig offers. We're pulling in all that information and stacking it into this page for you so that you've got all that information at your fingertips. And then what else? So really at the end of the day, what we kept coming back to when we were toying with the idea of doing the availability blackouts was that you really still just need to check with your musicians, even if you're looking at their calendar, even if they've shared it with you online and you can see when they've got bookings and when they don't. even if I were to say, okay, you know what, uh, looks like Jack's calendar is free next Friday. I'm going to go ahead and book him for this pub gig, and it's going to be a done deal. Like, you just can't do that. You still have to ask the person, hey, look, it looks like your calendar is empty, but here's this gig offer. Will you accept it? So with all of that, we're just like, okay, well, we still have to check with people. How can we speed up that process? And that's where our auto book, shotgun, and team chats really kind of come into play here. So in our new system, we're going to have 2 brand new features coming out. Again, we'll be beta testing these with you guys in the next month or so. June 17th, by the way, is our date we're aiming for right now for having beta testing begin. So we've got shotgun and we've got team chats. Autobook has been around for a while, but we are making some updates to that. So I wanted to chat a little bit about that today. And I think what I will do is maybe just go right into our new app for this. Yeah, I think that's all I wanted to cover in there. Okay. I'm just going to jump right into a booking here. So this is our new system. For those of you who are used to the old one, you will notice quite a significant improvement to the look and feel of things here. So everything's much cleaner, but when you come onto the book rolls page for the first time, so I'm booking my rolls right now for a 9-piece band. And the system knows that for that band, I need my rhythm section, a couple singers, and a horn section. I've got a sound tech, and I've got a photo booth tech on here as well. I'm actually just going to take off our photo booth tech because we don't need him for that event. So that's that. Now within each of these roles, when I open these up, we'll see a bunch of new options. So right now it's telling me here that Autobook is ready. So I'll talk a little bit first about our Autobook updates. So with Autobook, this is the system that essentially goes through each of your people on your call list for you and checks with them if they're willing to accept that gig or not. So what this is telling me right here is that on save, Autobook will send gig offers starting with the first call member, and members must accept or decline that offer before the expiry. So those with any prior responses for any other roles in this service are skipped. So this is a big difference to how we're currently doing things. So currently, the way Autobook works is it will go through one by one. So it'll send off the first offer to Alexander in this case. We'll give them a certain amount of time to accept or decline. If we do not hear back from them before that offer has expired, we automatically decline them and we move on to the next person. And it goes like that throughout the list until one of these people accepts that offer, and then we've got our drummer solidified. Now, what if the same person exists in the next call list as well? Maybe we've got a drummer in the band who's also capable of playing bass, so he's on both call lists. I don't have that in this example, so just use your imagination. Imagine we had Alexander at the top of this list and at the top of this list. Well, what our current system will do is it will send a gig offer to Alexander for the drum position. And then while it's waiting for that reply, it moves on to the next role. So it comes over to bass, it opens this up and says, okay, now we're going to send a message to the first call here. Oh, the first call is Alexander. Well, we're going to send him an offer for that one as well, and so on. So if Alexander was the top call for several different roles in the band, Alexander would receive multiple gig offers all at once for this gig. We decided that wasn't the best way to do things. So in our new Autobook system, what's going to happen is the system will come down to the next role. It will see Alexander's name here again and say, oh, well, Alexander already received an offer for drums in this case. So he will be skipped on this bass offer and we'll move right on to the next person in line, which in this case is Bella. So that's the difference to the Autobook system. This has been done to facilitate much larger groups. For example, orchestras where you would have 24 violins playing a particular event or a recording session or something. And you don't want that, your call list for each violin would be the same. You've got, everybody who can play violin can play any of those violins that you want on your booking. But you wouldn't want one of those players or any of those players getting 24 gig offers all at once. So this facilitates the system having much larger groups sizes in here. Yeah, it just generally kind of makes things a lot easier in that regard. What else did I want to say about that? For the auto book, I think of one other ensemble configuration there. I've lost my train of thought, but I think it'll come back to me. Okay, so that's sort of the changes to the auto book system. We've made manually booking members a lot easier here as well. So that's pretty straightforward. You just come in here, select whichever member it is that's going to be booked, and you can adjust their rate amount if needed there. Not a whole lot of explanation to be done there. So that will happen as soon as you hit the book button at the bottom here, or the save button. That member will receive an email letting them know they've been booked, and they'll get all the gig details that way. In this case, they do not need to log in to accept or decline that offer. It's just a done deal. So that's useful in the case where either you've already communicated with this person and they've already accepted the gig offer via some offline means or something, or if it's yourself. If you book yourself on gigs, obviously you don't need yourself to go and accept gig offers that you've sent yourself. That's just silly. So you can manually book yourself in those cases. Shotgun. Shotgun is the new exciting one that everybody is looking forward to. And really what this is intended to do is a couple of things. One is to sort of save your butt in sort of a last minute situation where, maybe going back to that example from earlier, if the client calls you in a panic saying, I need a band for next weekend, what can you get me? It's one thing to be able to come in here and look at this list and see, oh yeah, Don does have a conflict on this day, and maybe the rest of my band members do too, so it might be tough. But if you want to go that extra step of actually knowing whether or not you've got a band, you do need to contact everybody and ask them if they're available. And this is where the shotgun feature is going to become really, really handy, because when you activate that, what's going to happen is instead of going one by one through your call list, the system is going to send an email to each one of these people simultaneously. And it's a first come, first serve gig offer style. So they'll all receive a little notice about that in the email as well, saying, this is a first come, first serve gig offer. Get in here fast if you want this gig. And then that way, within moments, probably an hour, you'll know whether or not your whole band is, whether or not you've got people for every position in your band. Very quickly. It can also kind of save your butt in the instance where maybe your drummer gets sick the day before the gig and you need to find a sub right away. This feature can help you with that. So again, replace that drummer on the call list and send out all the gig offers to all your other remaining drummers you would like to put that offer out to, and one of them will accept, and then you'll be good to go. So that's the shotgun side of things. So really with the conflict messages here, as well as our updated auto book system and the shotgun system, these are what we've come up with as sort of the best ways around availability information and getting availability information from your team, and doing it in a way that's really informative and value driven for your members. When you ask your members to come in and put in their availability information into some Blackout calendar type deal, and they're all just sitting there making work for themselves all day, plugging in their dates for you, it's really easy for that to become a really arduous and annoying task for them, because you're not going to book them on all those dates, but they're filling in all their availability on all these dates, and it'll feel really useless to them very quickly. Whereas this process, when you're using something like a shotgun or an auto book to send those gig offers out to people, even if that's not a confirmed gig, if you've just left the status as negotiating or something, musicians will know, okay, this isn't a confirmed gig, but I'm being asked if I'm available because there is the possibility of a gig here on this date. I'm not being asked to just go randomly fill in 31 days of my availability just for the sake of doing it, but there's an actual possibility here, and my leader needs to know if I can do this or not. So there's really sort of the light at the end of the tunnel for them every time they're asked for their availability in this case. Awesome. So that is all I wanted to chat about on the blackouts, availability blackouts calendar side of things, why we decided not to go down the path of developing that in our system. And that gets me to about 30 minutes of talking straight. So we've got a few of you in here now poking around. So if you've listened intently to what I've been saying and you have any questions or concerns, I would love to see your questions in the chat there. And if any of you are here to ask questions about any other parts of the app or anything that is up and coming in our new version, happy to answer questions about that as well. So you can post your questions in the chat there on the right-hand side, or you can join me in the fan spotlight by hitting the join button just to the right of the fan spotlight underneath my face there. And it will ask you again for for an account. If you don't have an account, it's just an email and password to create one, and then you can join the fan spotlight right beside Fran down there, and then I can invite you on stage to ask your questions and talk about all things back on stage. So 8 of you are here. You've all been very silent. I personally do not have anything more I wanted to talk about today. So if I don't have any questions popping up here in the chat soon, we may adjourn soon. But I did want to also say that we would love to see you back at more of these. And if there are other topics you guys would like to have discussed, or better times of day that you would like to discuss them in, please as well throw that information into the chat. We were going to try to get organized and have a little form for you to fill out so you could sign up to a mailing list or something like that. We haven't gotten around to that yet, I don't think. But yeah, throw your information into the chat there if you want to join our mailing list or be aware of any of these future events coming up. So I'm not seeing any questions come in there. So if none of you have anything here, I'll give you another 30 seconds to post a yes or a no if you've got something you want to say. And Fran has posted our form there. Thanks, Fran. So if you wouldn't all mind clicking on that link, that's just going to give us a little information. We'd love your feedback on these Back on Stage live casts, and would love to see what you would want to hear about in the future. So if there's anything we can do to improve these, make these more valuable to you, we really appreciate your feedback. Go ahead and hit that link and tell us what you think. All right, I'm not seeing any questions. So with that, I'm going to adjourn today. Thank you so much for coming out and being part of this live cast. And once again, go check us out at backonstageapp.com if you'd like to check out what we're doing and grow your music career with some software tools that were made by musicians for musicians to help you kind of elevate your game a little bit. So we will see you back here next week for our next episode. That will be Tuesday again at 11 a.m. Pacific time. So we will see you back there for that, and have a wonderful week. Happy gigging, and talk to you soon.